it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in July, and I had a bit of a hit and miss month. I finally decided to get to the final book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. This is, I guess it's classified as a fantasy series. It's kind of like a Western fantasy. Yeah, it's kind of a weird mixture, but it really works, and I really like the characters. And I've read all of the other books in the series, but it has been a while since I read book 6. I have had this copy of the 7th book on my shelf for a good few years maybe. I'm pretty sure my sister bought it me for a birthday a few years ago. It is a beast, so it's kind of intimidating. So that's one reason that I've been putting it off. The other reason being that even though you want to finish the series, sometimes you don't want to finish the series. So I think those things have kind of been holding me back. Plus the more time that has passed in me having read book 6, it's a bit more difficult to get back into it. So anyway, I was perusing my bookshelf recently, and rather than passing this one by as I usually do, I thought, hey, you know what? I'm actually in the mood to read this finally. So I chose this to be one of the books I read in July, but knowing that it is a bit of a beast, it's just shy of 700 pages at 699, and I kind of just wanted to read something short before I started on this. So I ended up picking up, also off my shelf, Pretty Little Liars, which is probably fairly different. Pretty Little Liars by Sara Shepard. This is the first book in a very popular series and was also turned into a TV series. The finale of season 7 was fairly recently on TV, and the TV show is one of my not so guilty pleasures. And I have watched it since the beginning, and even though it's utterly ridiculous and none of it makes any sense, it's still just a really fun thing to watch, and I just enjoy it and I enjoy the characters. If you haven't heard of this, this is the story of a group of teenage girls. There are 5 of them and one of them goes missing. The main story picks up sometime after this and she is still missing. They don't know what happened to her, and the 4 remaining friends have all kind of split up and don't really hang out together anymore. And at some point they each individually start receiving messages from a mysterious bully, and this person is threatening with exposing their secrets, and it finally brings the girls back together because they all find out that they are all receiving similar messages and threats from this mysterious person. So anyway, I had picked this copy up from a library book sale, I think sometime last year, just for funsies, and I'm pretty sure it was only 25 cents, so I couldn't really say no. And it's been sitting on my shelf this whole time, and since the TV series ended, I figured, how about I pick this up now while it's still kind of timely and I can see where the series began and just kind of wrap it up. This was a super quick read. It only took me a couple of days, and it's good fun. It's definitely an interesting premise, and all of the characters are pretty well defined, and I can definitely see why it was picked up to be made into a TV series. One thing that really bugged me was the constant naming of like brands, especially like clothing brands. I mean, fair enough, put it in here and there if it's somewhat relevant to describe that someone's wearing, you know, a fancy outfit or whatever, but it's literally like every other paragraph, and sometimes it's multiple within one sentence, and it just got a bit too much for me anyway. But hey, I'm clearly not the demographic for this book anyway, so that shouldn't surprise me. Rapidly approaching 40, so yeah. But I still enjoyed it, and it was a fun read. This was just interesting for me to kind of see where it all began, and you know, like I say, it was a fun, quick read. I am not going to be reading any more of the series, but I gave this 3 stars out of 5. So after that one, I then picked up The Dark Tower, the 7th book in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and for whatever reason I just found it really difficult to get into it, which was really disappointing because I was really looking forward to finally reading it, and I've really enjoyed all the other books in the series. So I don't know what it was. Maybe this just wasn't the right time for me to pick it up, I don't know. I was finding it really slow and hard going, and it's never fun when you're finding a book a chore because you should be enjoying reading it on some level. Also, the font in here is so incredibly tiny that it's kind of difficult to keep following where you're going. It's very easy to lose your place and just read the same bit over and over again, at least I found. And I have good vision, so that's not the reason. This took me over 2 weeks to get 200 pages into it, and I mean, I'm not a particularly fast reader anyway, but that was kind of ridiculous. So at that point I decided I'm just going to put it down for now. I'm going to pick something else up and I'm going to come back to it. So I don't normally do that with books, but this is such a long one that it was just going to feel like a chore, and I didn't want that to be the case. So I put this one down, and instead I picked up The Fire Witness by Lars Kepler, and I got this copy from another library book sale, so I think this was maybe only $1 or so. And Lars Kepler is a pseudonym for a Swedish husband and wife writing duo, and this I believe is the 3rd book in a series which has the same detective character, Una Linna. I have read one other book in the series. It was the first one, The Hypnotist I think it was, and I remember really enjoying that. I think I read that a couple of years ago and it was pretty good. This one I actually liked a bit more, and I gave this one 4 stars out of 5. I do find that the main character isn't that much developed. He's kind of this, you know, moody lone wolf kind of guy. He's a bit rogue. So yeah, none of it too original. But for me, the story of this book was really what interested me, and it was definitely very compelling. And comparing 200 pages in 2 weeks of The Dark Tower, it took me like 2 days to get through 200 pages in this one. So very quick read. This tells the story of a murder investigation where a teenage girl has been killed and her body has been posed. So there is, you know, they're trying to figure out what the significance of that is and who could have done it. The girl was living at a home for wayward girls, as they call it, so girls with problems that have, you know, maybe been runaways, living homeless, or they've had some kind of psychological, drug-related issues, etc. Anyway, so she is one of the girls here, and she is found murdered, and Una Linna is on the case. So without giving too much of the story away, it was just a very interesting and fast-paced thriller. I did find that the parts of the story that focused on Una's kind of side story, I just didn't find as interesting as the main storyline, and then it did kind of lose it a little bit at the end because it then focuses on him, and I guess it sets it up for the next book in the series. But up until that point I thought it was brilliant, really enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you're looking for a good thriller, and yeah, I gave it 4 stars out of 5. So yeah, that was everything I read in July. I have now picked back up The Dark Tower, so I'm going to continue with this and see how I get on. The bit that I read last night even kind of got me interested again, and I was really enjoying it. So yeah, hopefully I can get back into the swing of this, and we'll see how I get on anyway. So that was everything I read in July. Let me know what you've been reading, or if you have any recommendations. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!